how okay. I mean, I started it. I'm going live. We're going for it. So, okay, adolescence.
Adolescence. Hello, everyone. I've still not figured out how to share the Substack live link with my own people. But we'll just share it with them afterward. So let's talk
I
about adolescence. What'd you
I
think?
can I can share it. By the way, I can share
Oh,
it. I'll share it right now with your own
oh, thank you.
people. Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
appreciate
yeah. Yeah, no, I we had it. So Anu and I had a super, as we often do, had a really interesting conversation about adolescence, and I was supposed to do a talk about it with somebody earlier this week, but they unfortunately had to bow out. We talked a little bit, and I got her to join to agree to jumping on here on Substack with me to talk about it because you had some pretty strong ideas about it, right?
it. Yeah, always a pleasure to discuss controversial things with you. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. So just in a nutshell, I haven't read a ton of the commentary online, I'll admit, so I don't know if
it's
anyone's
good.
I suppose it is good because
Yeah,
because I can predict probably what the commentary is, but I
yes,
think both children in this situation were not headed in good directions, regardless of whether Katie had been alive
yeah.
and regardless of whether Jamie murdered someone. I think maybe James Mills said this. So James, I'm crediting you. This is like astute of you. Um, that they're both like one, or maybe it was you, Baz. I can't remember. I talked to both of you about it, but like the girl inflicted like standard female psychological violence, which I would call violence, like having been on the receiving end of a lot of bullshit from girls and women throughout my life. I
Yeah.
recognize it's a controversial statement, but you know what? Whatever. It's just true. It's just true. She inflicted psychological violence on Jamie. He inflicted literal violence on her. And
Mhm.
obviously, we see one is worse than the other, while one resulted in a loss of life, which I agree. It is worse in effect than the other. But like the way the show goes into the overall themes of, shall we say, toxic masculinity, it completely left unexamined the way girls are like very mean, um, especially
Yeah.
when they're growing up.
Yeah, and I kind of get it. I think the easy argument to make is like, well, someone lost their life. But I mean that doesn't necessarily, it doesn't make the other problem disappear overnight. So
No.
so I thought it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about it. What were your like first impressions? And hi everybody. I'm slowly getting people to trickle in.
Yeah, yeah. The cinematography of it was fascinating. It had me hooked from like the first few minutes. Like but the police stations, like the getting to the police station, the processing, all of that took so long. But I found myself unable to look away. And then I also was struck at how unemotional the father was. You know,
Interesting.
I don't know, and maybe I don't know what your experience of men
Yeah.
is. I imagine similar to mine, where it was actually striking simply because it was so similar to the way many Indian men behave with their daughters, including my own father.
Yeah. I didn't think, I'm surprised. What made you think that he wasn't emotional about the whole,
I'm
because he
sorry.
was like weeping by the end of it in the first episode.
Yeah, that's true. I'm
Wasn't
sorry. He was weeping. But I was struck by how he didn't even put a hand on his son's shoulder while he was getting processed, and like his son's clearly in distress. So if you think your kid didn't do it, like at that point he didn't have any reason to think that his kid actually did it, or maybe he did. Maybe on some level he knew that his own anger rubbed off on his son. I don't
Yeah.
know. Well, I'm curious what you thought about the whole masculine anger portion of
I
it.
I thought I so okay. So I have a lot of opinions about this show. So first off, in terms of the like cinematography, the acting, unbelievable. Like
Oh,
top notch. I forget the dude's name who plays the dad, but he plays Capone
mm,
in Boardwalk Empire, I think, and he was fantastic in that as well. But he I think I mean, I hope he gets an award for this project, but they did, and the little boy did great as well. I don't remember his name, but the boy that plays Jamie, the main character who ends up killing the girl Katie, he does incredible work. That being said, I wasn't really sure what the goal was. So let me take a step back and answer your first question. What did I think of the dad? I thought he was depicted in a pretty pretty realistic way. I thought he was very emotional. I thought there was a lot going on with him. Like for me, the stuff isn't
Yeah,
the
that's fair.
isn't the putting his hand on, to comfort him. I credit that to him being sort of in a thrown into a mix, right? And kind of still processing and not really sure, what to do. I mean, his initial reaction was a reaction I might have had if I had a kid, which was, there's nothing. This is confusing. I'm sure they have the wrong person.
Mm.
If we do the right thing, we'll be all right. I mean, if it was my son and he told me nothing happened, I'd be like, all right, then nothing happened. We'll get through this. So, but that's where my mind was. I thought it was interesting, and there's a lot interesting about this show, but to me, what it seemed like was they were trying to present a certain narrative,
Mm.
and I just don't know if that narrative aligns with reality. I mean, do you know anything about incels, or what's your knowledge of it?
I have not gone deep into the incel sort of space. I try to stay away from Reddit most often. My partner sends me
Hilarious.
videos. I know of it in theory, right? I know how it's been presented to me, the narrative, like narratively throughout, like in the culture by people I know. But
Well,
tell me,
so my read of it was it was pretty inaccurate. Like I don't
oh,
see incels
okay.
like, well, because like from my understanding, and I could be wrong, someone correct me if I'm wrong, incels are mostly nonviolent. And there was this like weird sort of like, especially in the third episode, and I'm jumping ahead here and I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but in the third episode, they show him interacting with the psychologist in a pretty strange
Oh,
manner. So like on the one hand, they're trying to portray this kid as like a psychopath, but on the other hand, he's also like filled with emotion, like and longs for women. Like what are we, you know what I mean? Like
what's the
which is it? Which
You
is it?
know,
Yeah.
actually, they're conflating being an incel, meaning an incel must necessarily be in a rage all the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah.
no there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it seems like there's no room for anyone in that space, like who may, I guess, consider themselves incels because it's a self-described thing. I
Yeah.
guess. Um, the assumption is that they are in such an irrational rage at women that they
Yeah.
can't see clearly. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
on you see, there's always a kernel of truth on either extreme. That's the problem. Like, and we can't hold any gray areas in our head. So we have to mark out, we have to say all incels are terrible people. They have no
Yeah.
points at all. There's no justifiable anger. This actually goes to how the sexual marketplace, shall we call it, is like
Oh, that's
very
right. Forgot about
broken,
that.
right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right?
Go
And
on.
that
Sorry. Sorry.
80/20 thing, I've heard that, right? I mean, Scott Galloway has said that. This is not like an
Yeah.
incel talking point. It's just accurate.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I don't. I struggle. Man, we can get into the dating stuff. Like, I'm curious first to hear, like, I'm looking for, or not looking for. I'm wondering. Okay, let's take a step back. So we start out in this school, like we start out, uh, um, with the boy, and him getting processed into the to the detention facility and what have you. Then we get to the school, and
Hmm.
that's when I thought things were. I thought I mean I'm curious to hear, like I don't know if you've I mean I'm not English, but did you
No.
go to public school?
Yes, yes, I
No?
do.
Okay. Do you remember it being like that? Like
Yeah,
at all? Yeah.
actually, yes. You know, okay, so some at least one person in your audience has heard of the IB program, but it's like
I
often.
was an IB kid. Oh my
Oh,
god, you were an IB kid?
yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. We have so like, oh, that's quite the shared experience. Um,
Yeah,
so the IB kids were not violent because they're just
right.
nerds who have been raised to be quiet and obedient. And
Yeah,
I say that, also having been raised to be quiet and obedient, that's not a knock on anyone. It's just how we're raised. But
yeah.
like the rest of the Gen Pops, shall we say, like they were always getting in fights. Like it was normal, you
Jim
know?
Pops is crazy.
They did,
That's so
it
funny.
it's unfortunate. We had a different behavioral standard, right? Like you remember no one stopping you from wandering the hallways,
Oh my
right?
god, I was just thinking about that this morning. I was thinking of this is so great. This is so okay. This is funny. This is good. I was thinking last night. It was either this last night or this morning. I was in the shower and I was like, remember when you used to just be able to flash a textbook and get anywhere you wanted to
Yeah.
go? like here's my calc, my HL calc text.
I
I'm not in
just
trouble.
finished my HL Calc. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah. I'm not in trouble. I'm late. I am late, but I'm
Yeah.
not like the others, right?
No.
With a capital O. So you can just let me through, and it worked, and it
Yeah.
worked.
And
So
unfortunately, like IB is a very classed thing, right? So
yeah,
it's not that I think that everyone in quote Gen Pop is like an idiot, just to be clear, but
right.
like it just fighting was far more common, you know.
Yeah.
It's a class thing, I think. I couldn't get a sense of the class composition of the school, but it seemed like a relatively like middle, like low, like middle to working class, right? It didn't seem like a
Yes.
posh school, as the British say.
Yeah. Yeah. It seemed like a very, very it's definitely working class. I mean, the detective who's the main character, or not the main character, one of the characters, has his son there, which is
Yeah.
not, and I would presume if Britain is analogous, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, if Britain's anything like the States, being a detective inspector is, I think, a high role, but it's not like, it's not like your chief of police or something. So, if his son's attending, I mean, and they've got their little Harry Potter outfits on, and but they all wear that, right? Like it's public school. They all do that, right? I don't know.
No, no,
So
that's true. The class angle actually was underexplored, I thought.
yeah, I think so this is there's so much um there's so much going on, like in multiple places. I'm curious, like especially okay, so they go to the school, right? They go to the school. This girl who's best friends with Katie, who gets murdered, talks in a way to the detective inspector that, like, if my mom caught me talking to an adult like that at that
Mhm.
age, I
Mhm.
would have been murdered. I would have been posted on the wall as an example to my other siblings. Like,
Mhm.
that to me was really
Yeah.
nuts, and they seemed to be okay with it. And then the other thing that was really interesting about the school was everyone seemed like miserable. Everyone seemed miserable. No
Yeah.
one wanted to be there. The detective was like, I hate this place.
Jail.
He his partner was like, I don't really care for this place. The teachers didn't really want to be the teachers were like using videos to teach the kids.
Mm.
This teacher comes in like disheveled and like doesn't even have his suit like, proper, like he doesn't even look proper for the kids. I was like, you haven't even tucked your shirt in. Like,
That was the Indian teacher.
I
Isn't
know,
that
I know.
crazy?
That might be the only part where I broke out of. I was like, I think he was on like this.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think like this is creative, but like I just thought that was like stark and really interesting. And I wonder if it's like I looked into it a little bit. Like I guess teaching the teachers in Britain are under a lot of pressure in the same ways the American teachers are. Did you know American teachers are like quitting?
Yeah, I actually still have friends from my Teach for America days, because I did Teach for America for a year.
Of course you
For
did.
anyone else, are you familiar with it?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I have friends who did TFA. Yep, yep.
Yeah, okay. So yes, they were quitting then, but I imagine it's gotten even worse, partially because, well, the situation post COVID has not improved, and I wonder who's quitting though. Like, do you know the profile, like why they're quitting, other than the
Yeah,
obvious?
yeah, and this is interesting because you see the sort of same okay, so I'll take a step back. The people who are quitting are usually, a lot of them are women.
Mm,
Um, and I find that interesting because in
yeah.
the show, as they're navigating the school, the there's the guys are pretty firm and pretty like, I mean, the camera pans out on this teacher scolding two of the boys,
Mm,
but the women seem very like, seem to have a, for lack of a better word, a soft touch. And I
mhm.
wonder, I don't know if you mentioned Scott Gall. Did you mention Scott Galloway?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Yeah, yeah. Galloway has this like interesting um narrative on schools, and this
Mm,
insistence that people, that there should be more men in schools. So
he's
it's
right.
it's interesting to me. Yeah, it's interesting to me that you're seeing this sort of, I don't know. Do you think, like, what do you think? Do you think the behavior of these students would be curbed if there were more male teachers, or
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I was in a majority Black school in Jacksonville, Florida, right?
holy moly? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, I also went to a majority Black high school, so I also saw it like from the
How do
perspective.
I not know this? This
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
sorry, go on.
I know. I don't know. For early experiences with race were very just unusual, and I think like white people especially are just unwilling to be uncomfortable enough to discuss like what I would want to say out loud. But like, because like I got bullied by both IB kids and like what we called mainstream kids. Like, is that me being racist? No, like they literally pushed me on the bus, but like we can't say that.
You got bullied by, what did they bully you for? Like, you guys
Oh, that
didn't
was
know.
social bullying. I'm sorry. That wasn't physical bullying. Like I got both, right? Like I got girls being like total bitches from a psychological perspective. And then I rode the bus home because like my parents were not well off. And so yeah, I got physically bullied by, girls who were angry.
Did you, okay, so they physically bullied you. They
Yeah,
didn't do
yeah.
it psychologically?
No, not psychologically. The Black girls unfortunately physically bullied me. Yes. I can't say it any other way because that was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
only demographic that bullied me physically.
Yeah, I'm and then but the IB girls, what did they do?
Oh, that was social exclusion. So,
Okay.
freshman year of high school, I had a friend. I have a couple friends from middle school who went to that school, and one of those friends had a birthday party and didn't invite me. And I knew then that I could no longer be part of whatever group I was trying to be part of. So I was like mostly alone for lunch for the rest of high school after that. Like I don't know that
Oh.
you know this. Like I know this sounds pathetic, but I am very much like I I don't know. Anyone who's read my writing is like, why the fuck does she hate women? Well, I mean, like
But you don't hate
I
women.
don't, I
You hate
don't.
you hate womanhood, which is a very different thing, I
Yeah,
think.
well, I hate that we are still acting according to the behaviors that we developed because of the need, like reproduction, right? It all comes
Yeah.
down to fucking reproduction. Like Rob Henderson writes a lot about this, but he doesn't ever go into the gendered angle. Though a lot of what he talks about has like informed my thinking on this is that like there are reasons that men and women have evolved to behave as we do, and women's intersexual competition just creates a lot of like shitty behavior. And we don't want to acknowledge it because we want to pretend that we're all blank slates.
I I'm yeah, I think there is an interesting culture around the excesses of womanhood, obviously. I want to hear your sort of perspective. You're not that much older than me. Did you have cell phones when you were in high school, or was that still
Yeah,
like a burgeoning?
I
Yeah.
had that Motorola StarTAC like flip
Okay.
phone from I don't know, like high school to like I didn't have a smartphone until 2011 after I left graduate school.
Okay.
So
Oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah.
Facebook came out in 2005 though. Oh, sorry, 4, and I entered college in '05. So like my attention span really never stood a chance because we were all acting like everything was good, like social media was good.
That's interesting. So you didn't like deal with people sending pictures, or like the weird.
Oh yeah, the girls and the nudes. Okay, let's talk about that. Okay, let's talk about the agency question here.
Okay.
So did like one, it was not astute of her to set like what are you trying to get at the storyline? Like, okay, so she sent nudes to this boy who then sent them around. Like, yes, he was shitty, but like also what was her behavior? Like, was that
Mhm.
good behavior? Like, no. She didn't have to choose to send him nudes, did she? That's just
Yeah.
how boys and girls behave these days, I guess. Like in high school, I don't know, the IB kids didn't send each other nudes, did they?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what your high school experience was like, but when I graduated high school, all this stuff came out. I had no idea what's happening. People were
Oh,
like doing crazy things. Like I was like, people are having we're having sex, and I was like, people are having sex, but how? Like I was so
wow.
like I was so like
I mean,
removed.
that I knew. But like the nude thing, did you have a smartphone in high school?
I didn't. No, I had a jinky phone, but like, I would that the iPhone, like the major version of it, I don't think came out until that year. Like I think I was like senior year or something like that. So
Oh, 07.
there was none of that. Yeah, there was none of that. I mean, I guess you could have. I'm sure that was happening,
Oh,
but
yeah.
just not to the same extent, right? Like
Not in the same way. Like, yeah, obviously people are gonna email nudes to each other, but it what I don't know.
email.
I don't know. Maybe like that was the only way to do it, right? Otherwise, there was no Snapchat yet.
Yeah.
It never. I don't know. It's just a failure of like common sense. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, and so, but everyone's acting like, oh, she was a victim, but like she made a choice that was the wrong choice in this situation. Like, can we not hold kids accountable for any of their choices just because they're kids?
Well, it was interesting to me that like she was sending nudes and like there was no talk of that like
Yeah.
whatsoever. And there was no talk of like I thought it was interesting that the therapist who like even when she was like asking him questions about it, the way she dug into it was kind of strange because
Yeah.
the way she dug into it wasn't like, oh, so like she bullied you.
Yeah.
It was just well, are you attract like it was this weird like are you attracted to women? What do you think about masculinity? Like I don't know
Yeah.
if anyone's ever had a therapist before, but like that like part of the show made me kind of uncomfortable because I was like, is this the way you talk to a little boy? Like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm out of line here, but
Well, see,
I do think go
therapy-
ahead, go ahead.
sorry. TV therapy is never act, but like I agree. Like she dug into a really in a problematic way. Like she was leading him to an answer.
Yeah. And it was interesting to me that there wasn't there like if you were curious about sort of exploration of feelings or what have you, you didn't really dig into like, okay, well, she bullied you. How did that make you feel?
Yeah.
What sort of techniques do you have for problem solving when dealing with someone
Mm.
who treats you this way? It was just it had like this it felt like agenda e and I don't know if people know this, but if you're listening, the name of the company was who produced the series is Matriarch Productions.
Oh,
So make of that what you will. Like
that explains a lot.
yeah, yeah, and the guy, this is another, the guy who like wrote it, the English dude, his grandfather literally invented propaganda.
Oh, okay.
Literally.
That's scary.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah, that
explains a lot.
yeah, so Prester John was the one who was talking to about that the other day. He was like, "Yeah, go look up his grandfather. He was the guy who invented like wartime propaganda in during World War II." So it's really interesting when you take those things into consideration uh, as you're sort of viewing this. And to sort of circle back to what we started talking about, I was the one who said it was interesting that he was hitting her with this sort of feminine version of violence, and no one seemed to want to address that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you're, because it's different when you're a guy. When you're a guy, you're completely removed. But when you're a girl and you're going through high school, how do you guys deal with like that sort of violence? Because it is violence.
Oh, like from boys or
No,
just
from
oh,
women, from
so
other girls.
well,
Yeah.
well, sometimes you end up being friendless like me, and you just kind of go quiet into your own world and read fucking Harry Potter books because Harry Potter
Shout
was
out to Harry
coming
Potter.
out. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it was coming out when I was in high school. Uh,
yeah.
or you turn around and do the same thing to other people. But like, I didn't. I really struggled to connect with anyone really, like especially other girls, and I couldn't have friends who were boys because my mother was just policed everything about my life. So,
You're that
when
kind of thing. Okay.
like you don't, I mean, it's hard, like it's just really difficult to deal with. There's like Mean Girls is my favorite movie ever. And it's not because it's like so funny, it's because it accurately describes like my reality in a lot of
I
ways.
mean, I think it accurately describes a lot of people's
Yeah.
reality. I think the way like it's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day. Like, if I could, I would teach people classes. I would teach men in particular, but I would teach women too, actually.
Mhm.
Um, you know how there's like self-defense classes for like men? I would teach self-defense classes for feminine aggression. Like,
Oh
what
yeah.
do you what do you do for when you know encounter reputational destruction? What do you do when you're being sort of like ostracized? Like, what sort of simple things you can do? Because I don't really see people wanting to
No,
talk about that.
God,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it goes against the women are wonderful narrative, and like the biggest silence around it is women ourselves, because well, it's again like fucking evolutionary psychology, which the woke
yeah.
left likes to deride as somehow being problematic, but like I these things are replicable across cultures, right? It's not like this is like we have, they've been studied multiple times. Like women close ranks and will value group harmony and cohesion above like honoring any one woman's experience of aggression, right? Like if I've been the one to name aggression happening toward me so many times, and I've actually been the one cast out as a result,
Punish.
like so
Yeah,
many times. Like,
yeah.
and it literally just happened yesterday, Baz. Like literally,
No, Anu, what happened?
I'm like deeply upset. I won't share, like just only like not now here because
Sure,
there's no reason to broadcast it to the internet.
sure.
Oh man, I feel gaslit. And it was
Yeah,
done, by the way, in the language of care, like I was being,
as it often is, the
fired.
soft touch.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
with a
yeah, yeah.
soft female touch. And the thing is, the reason it's so actually psychologically damaging for me is because at least like when a man's being aggressive, you know that it's happening, right? Like if a man's being aggressive toward me, I know, and I can just read it. It's very easy. But the feminine aggression is done in the language of care and like softness, and so you can't
Yeah.
even name it for what it is, and that's why it's so insidious, and that's why it bothers me more than any male aggression has ever bothered me.
You know what? And I think so. I think one of the reasons, there's a lot of reasons why adolescence has like caused a stir, but I think the reason why it's caused a stir amongst a political, like this political consensus that we have that's
Mhm.
designed to uphold, which is basically the affirmative model of like female groupthink. I think a lot of men, and I think you're a testament to this. I think a lot of women would feel this way too. I
Yeah.
think they feel they will receive no quarter, like they will receive no like gentle touch in a circumstance like Jamie's. If like let's say you end up in a similar
Mm.
circumstance as a man, but not or a woman, not necessarily like you committed murder, but like let's say you're at work and your fate is cast to a a certain type of
Mm.
office or a certain type of person. I think they will feel that the female-led authority, who they don't feel like they have a responsible ability to anything outside of themselves. Not
Yeah.
only will they not care that they have a different worldview, but
Mhm.
they won't even like understand or have any frame of reference for what people are talking about, right? Like what you're talking about
Yeah.
specifically with regards to like female violence. It's interesting. Well, maybe they do know. Well, what do you think when you're just cast out for naming it? What is that about?
It's about disrupting the vibe. And it's about like disrupting this
Okay.
idea that we're all equal too. Like that's actually a really important thing about female group psychology, is that it, the sort of the cohesion of the group is predicated upon pretending everyone's equal and that no one is better than anyone else in any capacity. because if you do, then intersexual competition gets triggered. But like, even if you don't name it, right, intersexual competition gets triggered anyway, because everyone knows there's a hierarchy, but everyone pretends as though there isn't.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
preserve this I don't know, mirage of harmony on the surface, right?
Yeah. Well, because you couldn't compete overtly, because
Oh,
if you did, then
resources.
like, pardon me, go ahead.
Sorry, resources, like from an
Yeah.
evolutionary perspective,
Well,
you
no,
have
no,
to thrive.
you could, yeah, so you have to compete for resources, exactly, but like you can't overtly compete, because
Yeah,
then you become a man,
yeah.
and you can't compete like you can a man. I don't always like using a Evo site, because it's normative, but like for describing
Or
people
it
who
is,
don't think, it's useful. It's very useful. Like,
but hold on, I want to push back on that because it's not
yeah,
as if these things are not documented in psychological, like
sure.
academic psychology, are they? Like I recognize like E.O. Wilson can be cast as a problematic person, but I mean,
I don't even care about that. I just think as soon as someone's intelligence reaches a certain level,
oh
you
sure,
can't you
no,
can't
you can't.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't. You're right. That's
But
accurate.
but but for the masses, oh,
Yeah.
it's very useful. It is absolutely useful. So I struggle with this stuff sometimes, because of that differentiation. What did you think about um the like whole therapy situation? Like, what, as you were like watching that, I'm curious what went through your mind.
That I mean, having also been in therapy for over a decade, I can
Yeah.
spot a bad therapist, obviously, but I also thought
Yeah, yeah.
I also thought that she because of the fact of Katie being dead, she wasn't even remotely wanting to go like delve into the motive, right?
Mm,
And then
mm,
separately, I thought the anger that Jamie had was being unfairly conflated with masculinity as a whole. Not even
interesting.
incels, but masculinity in general. And I feel like she described masculinity at one point, or like Jamie asked her to. Um,
Yes.
and she
Yeah, she
gave
did.
a really stereotypical, what I would call like a stereotypical definition of it, because I don't view it that way at all. I also think that what traits we code as masculine and feminine are coded that way just simply because they are more commonly found on one end or the other, right? And
Mm,
that doesn't make any of them good or bad. Like for for example, logic is coded as a masculine thing, but why? That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, um I first off, I didn't, like I said, I didn't like it, the way she went about asking him these questions. I don't know if it was appropriate. I think it was in an attempt to um make him look a certain way. When she asked him about masculinity, um I thought that was really, really interesting, because up to that point, we didn't really get any indication that this was a crime done out of some sort of nuanced gendered
No.
notion. And then she starts asking him, um, what do you think of like the manis? Did she ask him about Andrew Tate specifically, or was he mentioned?
No,
Or
Henry Tate was mentioned by the detective, but not to Jamie.
that's right. Okay. Yeah. So I think she does ask him about like this manosphere stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I've seen it, but I'm not really into it." Right? Like that's not my thing. So it's interesting. Like, what was the point of that? Or I remember seeing that and thinking, like, okay, so you have this earlier scene with the detective asking the son, "Hey," or there, here are these manosphere talking points. Then we get to the interview with Jamie, and this therapist asks him about this stuff, and he's like, I'm not really into that stuff. So
Yeah,
my question that comes to me, like, to my head, it's like,
forgot
is
about that.
the yeah, it's like, is the point here to like make it look like, oh, these messages are subliminal? They're like,
Hmm.
are we crafting a sort of like similar to kind of like the rape culture narrative? Like, are we creating a narrative for, I don't know, like masculinity culture, or what have you? I don't know. So I thought that was interesting. I also, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, I that just Interesting. I
Yeah,
actually I forgot about that. I forgot that he said he wasn't actually into that, and I thought that actually him seeing being seen as repeating incel talking points has
yeah,
then made him an incel, despite like him not actually being part of that, right? And then
yeah,
there was also the fact that like she made various comments on his post. It's not even like he said anything,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's almost like that language has permeated the culture. It's not even so much the manosphere. It's like things have escaped from the manosphere into popular parlance, and kids communicate in emojis. So she's basically the girl Katie had commented on his Instagram pictures with
yeah.
like various emojis that came from the manosphere, as I understand it.
Right. Yeah. 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 So she says that she basically includes a red pill,
Uh,
yeah, and I think she's the one who starts calling him an incel, which I don't know about anyone who's listening, but like at 13, I was not,
yeah.
you know, I was
No,
just
everyone was an incel. Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that.
like I thought that was really funny. So and see that adds another layer of complexity to me where it's like, okay, so the whole like narrative of this is incel culture, and we know it's a narrative because you are presenting it in front of Parliament, right, the English equivalent of Congress, and you are trying to push these specific agendas, and you're trying to get kids to watch this in school, like
Oh,
so yeah, that's a oh, did you know that? Yeah, 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 yeah. They're promoting the show. Yeah, so the show now is going to be like if you go to English schools, you're going to be forced to watch it if you're of a certain age. So it, it's there
wow.
is an agenda. Yeah, it's really insidious. I don't like it. I'm
No,
not a
that okay,
fan.
that actually confirms that this is propaganda, or like
Right?
the intention was propaganda. Like that makes me angry actually. So and let's talk about like the fact that actually he had asked her out, and then she
Yes.
made all
Yes.
these comments.
Yes.
And he
Yeah.
had asked her out because he felt his words were, I believe, she was weak because of this nude picture going around, right?
I've never in my life asked
I
would
know.
it I would like what point I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah. The idea is absurd to you that he asked her out.
no, the idea is absurd to me that if let's just presume the premise true, would he have used those words? Oh, because I knew she was weak. Like, what do you mean? It's like, no, that's not. Maybe that. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that's just absurd. All of it is absurd.
Yeah, it just doesn't add up. Also, then again, no one deserves to be murdered. But
Sure.
isn't it particularly cruel to then go mock a boy who had to work up the
Yeah.
courage to ask you out? Like, what kind of
Yeah.
bullshit cruelty is that? And that is like not completely off the mark from reality either.
Yeah.
That's the
You
sad.
know, that's the thing. Like, no one wants to. I don't. I hope if they teach this in schools, and I know they're not going to, but I hope is that they talk about this sort of gendered violence and what violence looks like um, across the genders. Of course, they're not going to do that. I mean, I think that in the it's interesting to me that they made all these like characters incompetent, like, and so what do I mean by that? And I, and I'll get you. I'd be curious. Not only did they make them incompetent, but they made like certain people, and I hate like playing into this, but it when it happens, I have to call it out. They made all the white dudes weird, man. Like
Yeah,
they
it's
made the
by that.
like they made like they made the security guard. He was really creepy. They made
Oh yeah.
Jamie a weird. Like, did you notice that, or is it just me?
That's so interesting. No, I didn't, but like I want to know like what you saw there, because like I see what you mean with the security guard at the very least.
Yeah.
And Jamie, I don't know, it just seems very like
Yeah.
overall trouble.
Right. So they say Jamie's not into sports. He's like Jamie to me. I don't know. Are you aware of this meme? There's a new Gen Z meme. It's the sensitive young man meme. Are you aware of
Oh
this?
no, no.
Okay. Okay. So there's a new meme amongst the kids, Anu, and it's the sensitive young man trope. I call them the kids, and they're they they're it's like this like prototype. Oh, have you read what's his name? Okay, basically just a skinny guy who's like
Mm,
super into reading and like is
mm,
very kind of effeminate in a way. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that's just what he is. So there's like this
mm,
new like prototype of a young man. So there's this a portrayal of Jamie as this sensitive young man, and the security guard. They made the security guard seem so creepy. He's constantly flirting with the psychologist. I'm not sure what the creative point of that is. If the point is like men shouldn't flirt with women when they're at work, fine.
mm.
But I personally believe men shouldn't flirt with women at all in any circumstances. But that's me. That's a, it's a,
Hey,
well,
I am.
only because okay, I can get into that. But like I just and then when it came to like the psychologists who they don't even like show, they just Jamie's like, the other guy was easy. He just asked me some straightforward questions and left. But you're asking me these complex questions. Like,
Mm.
excuse me? like,
That's
like
that was weird.
so
That was
that
almost like trying to differentiate the woman from the man, like the man is a simpleton and the woman is the one
right.
who's actually deep.
Yes. And so I was just like, come on, guys. Like
Yeah,
it's so insulting and with how obvious it is. It's like, okay, like
yeah,
I don't understand what like yeah, I also don't know how I feel about the psychologist. Okay. Anyway, I did you notice that he was kind of was he attracted to her? What do you think?
oh man. So he basically accused her of having pretty privilege, is what I saw.
No, is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah, well,
Tell me
well,
about that. What does that mean? What does that mean to people who don't know what that means?
oh, well, okay. So this is actually something woke people say, but it is
Okay.
also a real thing rooted in actual psychology, which is that attractive people have an easier time in life. Now, the problem is the way it's used is neutralizes everything else that person might have, which are obviously confounding variables. You can't just say that someone is successful because they're hot, right? Like there are many other
Yeah.
things that go into success. Like, yes, people may be more willing to listen to you if they perceive you as attractive. And like, this is again a real advantage that women have. And then there are a lot of other women who don't see themselves as attractive, who resent women who are attractive and they see as getting ahead in life for that reason. So, but it's a real thing. But do you see how it's like weaponized in a particular way?
I don't. So break it down for me. How is it weaponized in this case, do you think? Yeah.
So, in my case, it's been weaponized against me to invalidate all sorts of things that I've done, and it's been used to excuse relational aggression. I've been called a pick me girl, which is actually accusing someone of having at least that, but in a covert manner. At least that is my reading of it. I
Yeah.
assume your audience knows what pick me girl is. So, this,
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. So there's this. Okay. So, remember, I was talking about flatness and the lack of hierarchy. You can't acknowledge
Yes.
hierarchy.
Yes.
So if you say, "Oh, well, she just got ahead because she's pretty," you can then say like, "Oh," you can then deny that any kind of hierarchy of beauty exists at all, right? Much of
Mm,
modern feminism is built on denying that there are differences in ability and beauty, and like relational capital exist,
yeah.
uh, but they do. And so as soon as you puncture that illusion, you are a target for exclusion. And then also like dismissing someone for being superficially successful because of their looks is a way to just make yourself feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, is that what he was is that what Jamie's doing in that scene? What do you think? What like why
He
is
was
he yeah.
Yeah, I that was the first thing that came to mind. I mean, he also probably resents that he can't get pretty girls, right? He sees himself as ugly, and
Mm,
that was actually a really heartbreaking moment where I felt for him quite a bit. That I might have felt for him the most in that moment when he called himself ugly and that he felt like
mm,
unwanted. Like it was very clear that he had a lot of pain behind his anger too,
yeah.
right? And again, not condoning murder, just in case that's not clear. But like there was just like anyone should hear a boy like crying about that sort of thing, like feel some kind of sympathy, like say
Yeah.
this is not a
And
murderer we're
she had
talking about.
none. she had none.
None,
She was
literally
she,
zero.
it was really, it made me uncomfortable on it. Like, yo.
And he was towering over her. That's the other thing. Like, he was also trying to intimidate her, and I suspect that's also because he felt quite powerless. But then it was also making the very real point that even 13-year-old boys have the ability to tear. Okay, so when I was a teacher, when I say
Yeah.
terrorize, I was teaching 11-year-olds, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
boys, like, I mean, they were kinds of terror. They were a kind of terrorist group, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the girls were very compliant, but the boys, like, they would pass sexual comments, and it just made me
Oh my
so
God.
uncomfortable.
Oh my
So
God.
uncomfortable. Like, imagine, like, I'm 24 years old, and
Yeah.
I am not expecting
How
to
tall are you? How tall are you?
5'4".
Okay, so you're small. Okay, okay. So even
Yeah,
that's even more of an argument.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
on the small, like, height challenge side. So I become easy to intimidate, and I
Yeah.
also become easier to sexualize as a result. Like, if I were
Yeah.
far taller and, like, wasn't young, it's far harder to sexualize an older woman, and, like, young female teachers actually do get sexualized against their will. Now,
Sure.
also, young female teachers do victimize young boys, and that's not talked about enough either. That there have
Right.
been some recent stories on that
There's so
too.
many. Yeah,
Yeah,
we should do we should talk. We should I could dedicate a whole hour
yeah,
on that
yeah.
sometime. But I want to hear, like, I know that you're dealing with, like, guys who are probably way taller. Even at 11 years old, I'm sure a couple of those guys
They
are
were like my
bigger
height.
than you. Yeah, 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 yeah. So that's so interesting to me. Like, but do you see why this is kind of like, uh, what I see? Let me take a step back. When I
Yes.
talk about this show, what I see is something similar to the man versus bear discussion. So what do I mean by that? There was a meme a couple of months ago, or maybe it was a year or so ago,
Yeah.
where people were discussing, or women were saying they prefer to be lost in a forest in the woods with a bear versus a man, because they felt the man was scarier. So when I watch this show Adolescence, what I feel like is what's happening is a case of being built for us to be wary of a certain sort of boy, a certain sort of young man.
Mhm.
And the problem with it is, like, if you observe it closer, you see it's incoherent. So
Mm,
let's talk about this terrorizing of, but what makes it so palpable, or makes it so, like, salient, is the fact that it's not, the best lies are based on truth, right? So you, it is true that a young boy of a certain size and of a certain grade can terrorize a teacher, but is that like is that the message you want to put out? Like, for me, what it feels
oh,
like is, let's create this sort of environment where it is easier to antagonize this sort of young boy, instead of recognizing that he
yeah,
might need a different sort of touch, right? Like, in your
yeah.
case, maybe there should be somebody on hand who's a guy, for example, or a bigger gal, right? Shout out to the tall girls, like, who can handle this person physically. Maybe there is a physical component to teaching. This isn't a conversation that we have,
Great
right?
point. Well,
Yeah.
because we don't treat boys, we don't school is not built for boys. And, like, Richard Reeves has said this, like, Scott Galloway has basically said this, like, it's just not. And having seen it as a teacher on the inside, like, it's not, it's well,
I think, go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep talking over you. I'm so sorry.
no, it's okay. It's just that we expect so much emotional regulation from them that they're unable to do. They're not developmentally there.
I wonder if, because this is another thing, this is a conversation I had with Jeff, I think the other day. Um I find it interesting when you see these sort of therapists kind of just, like, I don't know, it feels like they're just talking
Mm.
um to boys like they're girls in some
Mhm.
respects. So he's just, like, sitting there, he's telling his emotions. I don't even know if I finished my earlier point about the man versus um uh, bear
No,
commentary.
no, you didn't.
Okay, sorry. I just am running 100 miles an hour. So okay, so yeah, basically the whole point of the man versus bear uh like discourse is to paint men in a way that is threatening, so that you can sort of take resources away
Nice.
from them. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I just see adolescents doing the same thing, right? Adolescents is trying to paint young boys to be of a certain a certain type of young boy to be of a certain temperament, thus adding to like a larger agenda of sort of taking attention and care and what would
Mm.
otherwise be empathy and love away from them. So that's why I find stuff like this super insidious. But that being said, I don't even remember what I was talking about, but yeah, that being said, like it is interesting that she's talking to him in a way that I would talk. I don't know. I just feel like he's being treated like he's like a failed girl. Like
Yeah,
he should be able to just talk about his emotions, ready to go. Like
yeah.
it's let me ask these probing questions, these borderline inappropriate questions, and I need him to respond to me in a way that I would expect a little girl to respond to me. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree. We expect boys to be girls and we expect men to behave like women. This is actually going back to the sensitive young man thing. I mean,
Yeah,
all I hear from women is that they want men to be more sensitive and emotionally attuned, but they don't actually want that because if you have a man like that, you actually grow to resent it. But
yeah,
it's revealed versus stated preferences. I talked to James Mills about this a lot, actually.
yeah.
Um,
Shout out
and,
to James, by the way.
yes, shout out to James. I truly appreciate
Yeah,
him. We have said that any way in which men express emotions or don't express them is pathologized, and it's the narrative of female rightness in all situations. I think I don't know if I'm oversimplifying, but it just feels like
yeah,
nothing like women assert as true about men can possibly be wrong, and nothing women do collectively can ever be wrong either. Our society is enthralled to the women are wonderful thing. Like we can't
yeah.
seem to think that like maybe men are just different. I mean, it goes back to collapsing the differences between the sexes, right? I mean,
Right.
why else would you pathologize masculinity so thoroughly? And so the idea that Richard Reeves talks about, but perhaps not with enough force, in my opinion, is that we
Buddy.
yes, there's my cat. We're like the whenever you try to defend the interests of boys or men in a society that is leaving them behind, I firmly think
Yeah.
we're accused of taking things away from women as though women don't already
Mm,
have like society reoriented around us. I mean, look at how
yeah.
the workplace is oriented. Look at the norms of school. Look at like college, like women dominating in college and grad school and all these things and like middle management positions. Like just because CEOs and like board members and like upper management still happen to be disproportionately male, everyone is ignoring everything below that, which is the rung of society that actually makes things happen. The professional managerial class is highly feminized in its
Yeah.
behavioral forms, right? Like no one sees it as gendered. I've seen so many men comment on various things that just so obviously to me seem like gendered phenomena, right? Like
I'm
tribal.
right there with you. Yeah, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. So the sensitive young man thing. So I'm curious. Like, is that a meme in the negative sense? Because I thought that's what feminism like is pushing of the fourth wave, whatever wave we're in, is that we want men to be more sensitive, right?
Yeah, so it's so from what I understand, the sensitive young man is gaining trend gaining track like recently, but it's not like a new thing. Like there were sensitive young men tropes in like literature, right? Like um what's that one Holden Caulfield from A Catcher in the Rye?
Mhm.
Um or just like I mean there's like Aristotelian or not Aristotelian, my God, Victorian books. There's a book called The Sorrow of the Young Werther where there's
Did I lose you, Basil? Can you hear me? Damn it. Oh my god. The internet went out. is what Basil just said to me in Substack. What is my life? He says. I agree. What is life? Okay. We're going to pause. Still here, guys. Baz is coming back.
And we're back.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
So sorry about that, everybody. It's been one of those. It's been a great week, everybody. It's been such a good week. Um, I was saying, so the sensitive young man, and so the sensitive young man is just this, just a silly. It's like the best way I could put it is it's like the male version of literally me. Are you familiar with the literally me like meme?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like if you for people who are listening, the literally me like or like Brat Girl Summer, that's another one, but it's this idea of like you see a picture of yourself and you go like, "Oh yeah, that's me. I'm the same as this person." And it's just like a funny meme that like I think millennials and Gen Z pass around, but like Gen Z has particularly leaned into the sensitive young man meme. Like I've seen all kinds of interesting sensitive young man memes, and so it's interesting that as soon as that's been popularized, and I think it's only been popularized recently, that's kind of being demonized, right? So even if you're like it used to be that the hulking like sort of stereotypical masculine dude was a problem, but now the sensitive young man is also a problem. You know what I mean? Like,
But
so yeah,
that's what we want men to be, supposedly, according to modern
right,
no, I'm so confused.
right. And so like, that's why I find this whole narrative just like impenetrable because it's so incoherent. It's like, I thought you wanted that. Okay, he's an incel. Wait a second, isn't he 13? Shouldn't he be an incel? Shouldn't he not be having sex? Like what is going on?
It's
Like,
it keeps moving, and this is
yeah,
why when I argue, or rather, sorry, when I write about feminism, there's always someone who to come and say, "Oh, well, that's not real feminism." Well, the
yeah,
target just then always moves, so if you can't ever argue against it. I mean,
yeah.
that's just insanity. That's crazy making. That's intellectual gaslighting.
Yes, yes. And so that's why I don't take this stuff seriously. But the problem is everyone else does, Anu. Everyone takes it seriously.
I am so confused by this. And this is why I stay off the social internet. I think I'm actually totally I'm okay with it. I'm okay with not knowing what's going on. So taking resources, like, sorry, man versus bear. So I
Okay.
actually thought that was, just to go back to that, because I
Yeah, yeah.
thought that was like women choose, like if they are faced with a strange man or a bear, they'll choose the bear, right?
No. So okay, it seems like that. Cause so okay, this is the way I figured it out. The man versus bear argument, it's just a status game. And so how do I know that? Okay. Let's engage in a little thought experiment. Let's say a house is on, or you're in a building, the whole building's on fire, right? And you're trying to get out of the building. And the only way to get out of the building, you're like on the 30th floor, let's say. And the only way to get out of the building is through an elevator, right? And there are only two elevators in this building, right? Again, it's on fire. You're trying to get out. There's smoke, there's all these things. Suddenly the both elevators open up, right? You're standing there waiting for them. You press the button, the elevators come up, they open up. In one elevator is a bear, a giant bear. In the other elevator is a man. Which elevator are you choosing on?
Obviously the man.
Right. And so that's
Oh
how
my
I know
God.
it's unserious, because it like you don't actually mean
Yeah,
that,
oh,
because
totally.
it, if the circumstances were to somehow magically reveal themselves, where you had to choose between one or the other, you would just choose a man every single time.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding all the data that counters your point, but no one cares about data. They just, but if I put it in
No.
those terms, people seem to get it. So
That's a way better way to put it. I fuck. So
the whole point of it then there is to, so okay, so now we've established that it's a status game, right? So why then do it? What's the motivating, or not a status game? You wouldn't actually choose the bear. That was the whole point of that.
right,
So
right.
so what's the point of bringing up that whole example, or that whole, why bring up the discussion anyways? The point is to make it look like if you are a woman, you are in a vulnerable position in relation to men. And so as
Mhm.
a consequence of that, you should get either a more attention, or a more um resources, or more sort of societal consideration than you would the man, even if it is statistically unlikely for the man to
Mm.
hurt you in a physical way. Now that he's been cast in that light, he's going to, like, and you've casted that, like, you've had that debate sort of society wide. People are going to go like, oh yeah, because men are more violent, even if it is statistically untrue. Now everyone's default becomes men are more violent. And so in
Yeah.
that, as a consequence of that, now you're suddenly getting more consideration in all sorts of circumstances, in all sorts of contexts, right?
Yes.
So
Playing up the victimhood while also select, like, okay, so in this situation, we are correctly identifying that women are less physically strong than men,
right,
and
right,
men do perpetrate most of the violence in the world,
Yeah.
like relative to women. But then we also want to pretend like there are no differences between the sexes when it serves us, especially when we're talking about like women's sports, for example. So,
Yes.
but then it's also the playing up of victimhood. Oh, you know what? What's her? Christina Hoff Sommers. I read.
Mm.
Oh God, so she had that seminal book, and she goes deep into the research on domestic violence. And I don't know if I fully buy her arguments, but her argument is that the statistics were overblown, and a lot of that from the 80s and 90s was like a propaganda campaign. I don't know if I believe.
Yeah. I will say real quick about that it's what I wish there was is we had a standardized form of measuring emotional violence. Because
Yes.
if we did, we wouldn't have a lot of these conversations would be very, very different. So
Yeah.
even when it comes to the domestic violence that statistics that Christina is referring to, right? Like a lot of that violence is reciprocal. Like when you look into that data, you realize that a lot of these acts of violence are bilateral. So it's men and women getting into physical contact with or physical like there it's people hurting each other, people assaulting one another. Um so I will say that and anyways, so I do wish that people we had like a system that was sophisticated that was like, hey, when a woman's doing this to you and you're feeling this way, you're being hurt, right? It's not the same as getting punched, but right now she's being violent. She is
Mhm.
absolutely being violent. It's just a very different form.
And the thing is,
So
we are glad to say words are violence, but like not when we
I
should be
know,
saying words are
I
violence.
know,
Like,
I
oh my
know,
God,
I
I
know.
keep finding shit like this. We've identified like 5 instances of this very thing where I don't even know what to call it. Is it some like semantic slippage? Like I don't know what it
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
but
yeah.
when
That's
you want
interesting.
the thing to mean what it's supposed to mean, it doesn't.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
fuck, I
But
don't know.
that's by design. That's by design.
Yeah,
I think that's by design. I think we're in a weird place. I think I'm with you. I agree with you. I think a lot of the problems that we have are predicated on the reason why things aren't going well right now in American politics for the left in particular is and men in general is that no one seems to want to understand what
no.
men want or what men are going through, whether it be how they express themselves emotionally through paired activity, right? The
Mhm.
problem right now is definitely um, I don't want to understand you. Also, you're a girl. Why aren't you acting like a girl? You're a girl.
Stop being a girl because I find that I
Yes.
don't actually like that,
Yeah.
especially if it comes from my partner.
Exactly. No, I don't want you to be a girl. When in the bedroom, I'm the girl. Hang on, why are you acting like a girl? So it's not it's like it's just
It's
incoherent. It's not
crazy
even
making.
yeah,
Crazy
yeah,
making. And I
yeah.
say this like I have been in a relationship with been married to a sensitive young man, and like I don't mean him, I don't wish him ill, just to be clear. But
Yeah,
like that is actually that first marriage is how I realized that my stated and revealed preferences were in
very different.
like they could not be resolved. And then I realized that, oh, like this entire edifice of my entire sense of self came crumbling down. But like most people are just not able to revise their opinions with new information or resolve or like actually deal with cognitive dissonance or sit in the place of discomfort. In the Democratic Party, I again, going back to how several male commentators on these and adjacent topics like fail to notice the gendered phenomenon. Like why is it that the Democratic Party is completely indifferent to anything men feel or think, right?
Yeah,
Like it's because it's the institutions that determine its direction are dominated by
by women.
professional class women
Yeah,
and like their communication norms and like the HR bureaucracy, like, and I've been
and if you yeah, and if you step out of line, right? Yeah, right. You get it. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah, no, but like, I mean, for your audience, it's probably beneficial.
Yeah. So this was a lot of fun. I know we had some slip ups today, but I still had a lot of fun. I hope you had
Yeah.
fun.
I
Um,
really enjoyed this. We it's a shame we didn't get to talk about White Lotus, but we'll do that
we could
separate.
talk. I mean, I want to be respectful of your time because I feel like I've already gone over because I promised that I'd do an hour. I mean, if you
Oh
want to
no,
talk about any of this, we can.
I
So
how about we go for like 15 more minutes and get White
okay,
Lotus
let's
next.
do it. Let's do it. I want to hear your thoughts on White Lotus.
Fuck. I was so disappointed. There were too many characters, too many storylines. Belinda didn't really need to come back. I felt like that was like that was not that felt like it came from a place of wokeness, but that's all I
Oh,
that
it 100%
you
did.
know.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I recognize like the initial story about Belinda, right? That she was like her hopes were brought up and then crushed. Like that was actually an accurate commentary about how rich women often behave. I'm not going to limit it to white women.
Exactly.
Clear
Exactly. It's just rich
that's
people in general. Yeah,
exactly,
absolutely.
exactly.
If you've ever sought funding for, for your tech startup,
Yeah.
you would know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant analogy. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the three women friends, obviously that is the one that I was the most interested in its resolution and like the most invested. And I just thought that was an entire like such a letdown because Lori's
Talk to
speech.
me about this. Wait, okay, so there are these three women. Who are they? What's their
Oh, yeah.
deal?
Oh my God. So there's a woman from Austin, funnily enough, who like probably lives in Westlake Hills. If any of you live in
Of course
Austin.
she does. Of course
Yeah.
she does.
Yeah, exactly. And she goes to church and like she's becoming increasingly conservative. We find out that she voted for Trump.
Yeah.
She has this perfect life. She's in a very traditional sort of life. And then you have Lori, a New York lawyer who did like elected not to get Botox and like let her face age naturally. I mean, what nerve. Uh,
Yeah.
she also
Seriously.
was married to her work and got divorced. And like, her her like vulnerability is that she tried to do the whole corporate girl boss thing and could not establish a life around that because I mean
Right.
it doesn't allow for it. But she also though was the odd one out at first. Oh, and sorry, there's a third one, an actress. She obviously she is the most vain of three because
Mm.
well I mean she kind of has to be in a way.
Yeah.
And so she has paid for them to go on this vacation. They've been childhood friends, and so there's successive scenes where it's like the three of them hanging out and like paying each other fake compliments in that way, exactly that way that women have conversations where they're like,
Yeah.
I just really admire like how you've lived your life and like it just
Which
you
means
know
I don't actually admire the way that you've lived your life. Yeah, 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 yeah,
exactly. But
yeah.
after having this fakery, two of they'll go off in pairs of two, and the third one will be watching from far away and then be feeling like shit about it. And that's literally exactly how female friendships go. I felt very seen by Mike White initially in the way this was all set up. And at a certain point, the actress is trying to push one of the guys that like the guy who works at the spa
Yeah.
onto Lori, the one that they both secretly think is pathetic, who was married to her work and aged naturally.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she didn't go for him or like it just didn't happen. And before anything could happen between Lori and Valentine, the guy who works at the spa, Jacqueline, the actress, slept with him. And so it's
Oh
not
my God.
that, I know. But it's not that it bothers Lori so much that she feels like she missed out. It's that she finds she calls Jacqueline's behavior out for the like for what it was. I don't even know exactly what to call it, but she clearly wanted him for herself. So like why was she trying to push him on Lori? And so she calls out this incongruence and also the fact that she was very casually cheated on her. I believe she was married
Yeah,
to
she
this
was married.
other guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she was married.
Yeah, casually cheated. And so, Lori passes judgment on this behavior and just finds it to be very strange that, Jacqueline would push this guy on her and then sleep with him herself while also being married. And so she calls us out, but like this causes a whole blow up because you can't
Yeah.
actually hold anyone to standards in female friendships. You can't have standards. I know it sounds hilarious, like in the sense that it is hilarious because it's so darkly fucked up.
Well, so here's my thing with that. So that's the part of like White Lotus has always been a slog for me. Why has it been a slog? So to understand why it's a slog, like I've worked with those people. I have dealt with those people
Oh,
most of my life. In
yeah.
my free time, I do not like dealing with them.
Oh,
I have a friend of mine who is very well established. He's a dude in his 50s. He's got worth like 30, 40 million, right? He's doing great, right? And I used to work for him. This is back in Chicago. And he used to go, "Hey man, hey Baz, why don't you hang out with us after work?" I always like when it's just me and you're fine. But when the
mm,
group gets together, you don't want to hang out. And I'm like, and those people from White Lotus, that's these people.
oh,
I just can't deal with it. But that being said, like the only reason why I say that is because sometimes like this is like a dynamic that I'm not really familiar with. So I kind of need you to guide me. I will ask one question though. Yeah, because I'm like, I'm just gonna go hang. Where's their good Puerto Rican food? I will go to that neighborhood.
yes,
Um
yeah.
I will ask you though, like what what is this like why is she like in the first season you get Sydney Sweeney's character, if anyone's seen the first season, where this girl can't tell, like her best friend can't tell her she's seeing this guy secretly
Yes,
because
yes,
she knows that she'll fuck, like she'll have sex with him, like
yes.
it's like the inverse of that right
Real.
now. So what is going on? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what is
Oh yeah,
going
yeah.
on?
No, that's real. That's a thing where like the woman, like the girlfriend wants the thing that you have because she's jealous. Like it's just standard intersexual competition. And I thought that was really interesting because they had such a weird relationship, those two girls. Like Paula was lending her exoticism to
Yeah,
Olivia help Olivia feel less guilty about being white, right? Because it's all
yeah,
like
yeah.
so much of this is driven by not
White
just
guilt.
like
Yeah.
white guilt, right? But it's also like like the way in which women have been conditioned to easily feel shame, right? That's what gives white guilt such
Mhm.
hold, like such sway over women. And I don't think people again notice the gendered nature of this. Who feels shame more intensely? Obviously women do. Like it
Yeah,
makes total sense that the Democratic Party is inured to this idea of white guilt. Um, and then Olivia obviously lends her affluence to Paula as a
yeah,
status symbol. So they're both getting something from each other, but there's also this like asymmetry where like Olivia feels like just rather Paula like rightly probably sees that Olivia is trying to take from her despite having everything. And Paula herself is fucked up because of the classed way in which she treated the guy that she was sleeping with at the hotel that
yeah,
worked there, the native Pacific Islander, I believe.
yeah.
And they supposedly had a bond based on being people of color, but in the end they didn't because she is in a US university and he just works at a resort.
Yeah. And I guess sorry, the only reason why I brought that up is like it's that weird sort of sexual tension
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
is like, or the sexual like dynamic, like it's just weird. It's like you have the case, so in one instance you have someone trying who can't reveal their sexual preference because that person will take advantage
Yeah.
of them. But then in the other instance you have someone revealing their sexual preference and then going ahead and doing like cheating on her husband anyways. So what's going on?
Oh,
Can you help me? Like what's
oh,
going
I
on?
see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh. Okay, so Jacqueline didn't reveal her preference. And
yeah.
then but, like, she indicated it anyway by trying to push him on Lori, so it was like
Yes.
a mimetic desire. Oh, so
Right.
second season actually mentions mimetic desire, but talks about it in the context of the men. The
Mm.
2 men, Cameron and, the other guy, I can't remember his name, Harper and Ethan? Yes.
Yes.
So
Harper. Yeah, yes, yes,
yes.
yes.
Okay, so Ethan would like a girl, and then Cameron would find out about it and then go sleep with her before he could get to her.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Is it anything more? I suppose is it more than that? I also think just the way in which women compete for men, has something to do with this, right? Like maybe it would not be out of the realm of possibility that someone like Jacqueline would think, oh, like he's hot, let me push him on Lori because I can't fuck him.
Okay,
But
yeah.
then,
It might be that simple. Okay, you're
yeah,
right. You're right. You're right.
yeah. Oh, but then
Okay.
decided we'll say, well, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
and then not
yeah.
care about Lori.
Yeah. I guess I've never, I guess from the male's perspective, it's so simple. It's like you like him, then no, we just don't. If you're a good friend, if you're a dude, you're a good friend, we just don't. it's bro code, right? Like if
Oh,
you
so
like,
you actually abide by it.
I do. Yeah, I do. The only instances where I haven't is when I was unaware I was in violation of it because
Oh,
of me being who I am, where I'm just like walking around, just knocking stuff over, like some
you're,
idiot.
you're a
So
caveman.
so yeah, basically. So I mean, in that sense, I am. I'm as close to autism as you can get while still being allowed to legally live alone. So, but okay, so we have these three friends. What did you connect with in particular? Because again, these three women, I just kind of just like watched their thing. It was not for me. I could tell it wasn't for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. A woman who has experienced social exclusion definitely read something into it. I experienced a strong affinity for Lori immediately, and then
Mm.
I thought it was so silly how they were talking about the
Wait,
other.
why? I want to hear why. Why are
Oh,
you so?
why? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So initially because I am personally not like a fan of cosmetic surgery as
Mm.
just for myself or in general. And now I know like at least one person in the audience will accuse me of being judgmental of other people for getting it. And yet you're right. I am. I fucking am.
Yep.
I am. And like, sure, go get it if that's your choice. See, here's the thing. You are free to make your own choices. No one owes you refraining from judgment. Like
Yes.
why
Yeah.
is judgment such a bad thing? Like everyone makes judgments all the time. The people who say, "Oh, like you don't have a right to judge," are always also themselves making judgments.
Yes.
You know,
Constantly. Constantly. Yes. Yeah.
constantly. And so coming from the Hindu background, like I care about the philosophy. Like I actually try to live by the philosophies that I learned as a child. I mean, if I go to the illusion of Maya, like sorry, the concept of Maya, which translates to roughly illusion, but it's not so much just straightforwardly that it's the way you equate material reality with like spiritual reality. And I guess if you're not religious or spiritual, this won't really matter. But so the idea that the soul departs the body and like the body is a vessel that you shed at the end of your life and the
Mm.
soul is eternal, like plenty of non-Hindus believe in reincarnation. Actually, I've looked at the research from Pew Research Center of all things.
Well,
um
that's funny.
isn't
Yeah.
it fascinating? Even there are a lot of Christians who believe in reincarnation.
That's
So
interesting. Yeah.
I think cosmetic surgery increases your attachment to your body and it makes you more vain and it makes you obsessed with how you look. And I don't want to be vain and obsessed with how I look. I also don't want to be attached to youth because youth will fade. Like we just cannot be
True.
young forever. And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of we women have been sold that youth is eternal and that you can stave old age off forever. And the cosmetic industry is a huge part of selling that bullshit. And I
Yeah.
think it's selling women, like it's making money off of them. And like women are telling themselves they're doing it out of choice and out of an empowerment, but it's actually a prisoner's dilemma, right? So
Mm.
Lori looks quite so different from them, like in stark relief, because in
Yeah.
the professional class, women are not allowed to age, not because men are expecting them to not age, but because women themselves are doing it so often or so commonly, such that someone like me who doesn't want to do it is rather unusual.
Mm.
And especially in my line of work, like I'm in consulting. I mean, it's very common. Like if you want to like and I get it, like part of it is a career pressure, but it's also, well, I mean, if there wasn't this collective, like it's God, it's a race to the bottom, or like I can't,
Yeah. 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 No, I'm
what
with
I mean?
you.
If you're like the one person who doesn't do it, you stick out
Yes.
even more.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a saying in Japanese that talks like the nail that sticks out from the
Hmm.
will be hammered down. So yeah, that makes complete sense to me. I wonder too, like that I see a lot of young girls getting, have you seen this? Like a lot of young actresses are getting plastic surgery and
Oh, no,
they look way older. Okay, wait, do yourself a
no,
favor and go check
nice.
out Millie. Yeah, go check out Millie Bobby Brown and what she's been up to. So yeah, she
Bobby
looks
Brown.
Millie Bobby the girl from Stranger Things. So yeah, I guess she really leaned into the Stranger Things part. Her face looks, here, let me see if I can find it. She looks
Oh,
so
I'm
different.
looking at her now.
Yeah.
Oof.
Does she, yeah, is
She
it
first
pretty?
She credits her
Yeah.
feminist awakening to a psychic.
Oh, okay. Whatever. You
Yep.
hang out with Drake, so I don't care. No, do you see the surgery though? The surgery face? She did not look
What?
like that. Here, let me
Oh my
share. Let me
gosh.
share with you.
No,
Uh,
I mean, she does look way older than 21.
Right, exactly. That's the point. Yes. Like you've clearly gotten work done. My ex was like a plastic she was a plastic surgeon. So she always used to like point stuff out. She would always see where people had gotten work done. So yeah, she's supposed to be 21. Like why do you look what are these what's going on? So anywho, I was just curious if you'd heard of that.
No, that's really a shame. Usually, after they get work done, they just look worse. I mean, even if whether they're old or not, like even older women, I firmly think would have looked better if they had just let themselves age naturally.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so you see this sort of weird dynamic, and like, what's your big? I mean, what did you make out of that? Like this weird dynamic between the three.
That Mike White was trying to portray how a female friendship is highly tenuous and deeply like backstabby, even if they say they love each other.
Well,
It's
okay. I want to
that's
ask. I'm
the thing.
so sorry. This time I'm
No,
not actually. I'm not sorry. This time I do want to interrupt you.
yeah, please.
Does female friendship exist? I know it's a big question
You
to hit
know,
the end
I
of the
really
podcast, but
appreciate that
like, yeah,
question. I
yeah. Go ahead.
appreciate that question. It does. It can genuinely exist if both women are secure in themselves and their place in the world.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can't. Like you can't have one insecure and one secure women, and certainly not two insecure women. I have seen
Mm,
it. I've seen my friendships change, the nature of them change as I have gone from wildly insecure to far more secure. There's still lots you can just tell those people who are not self-possessed, and it's taken a lot of work. And so if you see someone who's doing better than you in any capacity, it's very easy to get envious and kind of sabotage the friendship or like secretly resent the other person. Like,
mm,
I've been resented, I've done the resenting. And so this tension simmers under the surface, right?
mm.
And eventually sometimes the friendship like outlasts the tension, and then, like, the tension dissipates, but like a lot of the time the friendship just if you can't be honest with each other, then the friendship will collapse. Now, if both people are secure and can handle conflict, then perhaps it stands a chance. But that's perhaps what struck me the most, is at the end the friendship remained fine. And it is, I don't know if it's because Lori's scene at the end like symbolized her caving, or what. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you have a beautiful, she said, I'm glad you have a beautiful face, to Jacqueline. I'm glad you have a perfect life, to Kate. And then I don't know, said something about like loving them. You could tell the other two were like bracing for her to like yell at them or in some capacity, but then she didn't. It's like they were relieved. So what she did was, perhaps the character, or in real life, would have just swallowed her actual opinion and said some platitudes to like get through the last day. I've had a friendship just completely collapse at the end of a trip to New York. I mean, I have never been able to pretend and act as though everything is fine, but it is a sort of ability you force yourself to develop over time. It's actually, no, it's not that I can't pretend. It's that I now refuse to pretend. There was a time when I pretended. In fact, I said to someone, much of female existence is about lying to yourself and to other women. Like, it doesn't
Uh,
what it's about. Just think of how many times women give each other compliments. Like, it's fake most of the time. It's just not true. It's just part of getting through life as a woman, is giving people fucking fake compliments because you want to please people, but also because you have to stave off intersexual competition. Right. And so the compliments are a sort of way to signal that you're an ally, even when you're working behind someone's back to cut them down.
why? What? Okay. Oh my
I know.
gosh,
I know. I know.
this is so much.
It's a lot.
I like it's. That's oh man.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to because like it's just, for so friendship is really important to me. It's a
Yeah.
really big
Me
deal.
too.
Um, and so I have a like when I hear this like almost like Game of Thrones like level
Mhm.
stakes, I'm like, I don't even want to be friends with it. Like I get where you're coming from, where you're like, I'll just hang out. Like but that being said, I know one of my closest friendships is a woman. I've been
Yes.
friends with her nearly 20 years. We met as children, right? And so I've seen like
Well,
the good stuff. So when I
yeah.
hear about this, it's it's not that I don't believe you or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I get it.
It's more like, what is going on? Like,
This is I really don't wanna sound like, and I hope like, people
nah,
know
yeah.
we're not talking about literally every woman out there, that would be ridiculous. It's just at an average distribution of behaviors, and I've encountered it too many times in my life to act as though it's not, like, a thing I experience. I've gaslit myself into believing that it wasn't real before, like, several times, and I'm just not willing to do it anymore. And so there are a lot of women out there like me who, God bless them, they actually do, they read stuff I write, and then they say that, they say that they've experienced similar things. So I know that I'm not alone. This is not me being crazy. It's just, there are many things about the way our society is set up that, despite us creating this like nice, warm, fuzzy story about female cooperation, it's just not, that's not how it works. Like, it has to come from a place of security for it to actually be cooperation, like true cooperation, because true cooperation does need to create room for conflict, healthy conflict, right? For disagreement, it needs to create room for disagreement, and most female friendships simply don't have room for that, and therefore they're not, in my opinion, real friendships. I have now, I think, shed many friends with whom I can't have productive disagreement. And Baz, you're on mute.
No, so I don't think, I guess I don't know. A lot of people reacted differently. Like even just like it seems like a lot of people reacted really positively to that. So I guess it's interesting. Like what is the point of them like like all right, here's something I read. Someone said um someone says it would have been so easy for Mike White to show them with a ruined friendship after this trip, but recognizing
Oh,
and loving each other with all of their flaws and being brutally honest was really beautiful. Lori's speech was something so relatable. I
wow.
But so that's the thing. I think that's the part of the female like because I know women like that. I know women who
Yeah.
are like, yeah, we were just like doing stuff that is psychologically as a man, I'm like, I would never tolerate that. And they're just like friends. And they're like, okay, like maybe
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe
I
that's what
know.
makes
What
sense.
is that about? Yeah. I mean, because for some women, they're very invested in the idea of feminist solidarity and the sisterhood and everything. Like, I don't believe that shit's real. It's a fiction we have told ourselves to perhaps paper over the uncomfortable fact of female intersexual competition. But like, it's not, it doesn't erase the fact that we are competing in all sorts of ways. Like the workplace, for example, a lot of shit goes bad when there are women who can't compete openly with each other, and a lot of the time women don't compete open. In fact, most of the time they don't compete openly with each other, which is again why I've had such issues in the workplace in the past too. But
Like,
yes, I mean, they can also be toxic, and I'm surprised that, I guess I'm not surprised that this commentator said that it would have been easy for him to do that, but that, for him to depict it as a ruined friendship, would have been realistic, because the
yeah,
he's,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, like, I guess like there's some people who are like, oh, we'll rise above it. But like for me personally, if I like had someone who was constantly doing
yeah.
that, I would just be like, I'm good. Like,
What
I'll,
is rising above it though? The rising above it that they're asking, like that I was asked to do literally just yesterday, the rising above it is pretending that you haven't been hurt.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like pretending like the behavior is okay,
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly
And
it.
it's like if there was, I feel like it'd be easier to navigate if there was some acknowledgement and some like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do going forward to try to make this happen. I'm probably gonna like make some I'm gonna miss some steps along the way, but just please bear with me as I like correct this whatever, toxic behavior is. But like
Yeah.
I guess we just throw our hands up in the air and go like, well, that's that. I don't know. I don't know.
Moral capital. A currency in female relationships is moral capital, right? Your status is actually based on how moral other women more like how other women perceive your morality, like how strongly moral they think you are, and how what your self-conception of yourself is it as a result, right? Like you have to have this sense of yourself as a good person, which means if you ever admit that you've treated someone badly, it means you have to look in the mirror and like face your
Uh-huh.
self-conception being false. I mean, I don't know. I know that like a non-zero amount of women who are listening will hear this and know what I'm talking about with moral capital being like the social status currency. It's not just who your spouse is or like how much money he has. It's also how moral of a person you are. And we have said that people are good or bad, not actions are good or bad, right? Like actions, to me, have a moral valence. Like you yourself are not an immutably good or bad person.
100%. Also, did the Russians get away with everything? Just a quick
Yeah, they did. What was up with Guy Talk? By the way, oh yeah, can we talk about Guy Talk and the K-pop star real quick?
Yeah, sure. I don't. Yeah. That, by the way, my sister speaks fluent Korean, and so the K-pop. Anyways, go on.
Oh, that's hilarious. Wow. I didn't
When I
understand.
watched that, I'm like,
Yeah. Well, because it's a comment on hypergamy and also masculinity and femininity in a way. Like, so I don't remember her name, but the woman likes Guy Talk when she thinks that he has, performed well at work and is going to be promoted and like is a real tough guy. Like she's trying to like encourage a certain version of masculinity in him that is clearly not something that he wants to be like, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
she's trying to force him to be something he's not, which is like kind of the flip side of the sensitive young man thing, meaning he is a sensitive young man and she's openly resenting it, right? Because in the end, I thought that she broke up, like I read it as she broke up with him because he was unwilling to like confront the Russians, and or rather, no, she didn't even know about the Russians. He wanted to quit, and so she thought him as less of a man.
Interesting. Okay.
What did you get out of it? I'm guessing you got something different.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Didn't care.
I was too busy admiring Blackpink, so I don't really I didn't really get an analysis out of it. So I should probably go back and rewatch that. So I do agree with though with your overall assessment, right? That she was looking for a particular sort of person. Why you would look for that in a K-pop as a K-pop star or whatever, like I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I have to think a little bit about that. So
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's whatever. And then there was the family, and then there was Chelsea. I mean, I don't know what other characters, like what else, like are there?
I think if we should want to do a White Lotus talk, I think I need a beat.
Okay, yes,
I'm
we can wrap
reaching.
it up. We can
Yeah,
totally.
I'm reaching the sort of I gotta run.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
this was tons of fun.
As
We should
usual.
do it. We should totally do it again. Thank you
Indeed,
for being
indeed.
you as
Yes.
always, and everybody who's still here. There was 171 folks who passed through today.
Oh,
Go to Radically Pragmatic. I will leave the link in the post when I set it up. Anu, love you. Hope we can have another chat again.
yeah. Take care. You too, guys. Take
Bye.
care.
All right.